everyone. This is April with your photo travel guide and fall photo trips. I had a scheduled Zoom earlier where we talked about travel photography, and there's a lot to think about when you're wanting to take pictures of your travels. And I'd wanted to print out my notes. I like my notes, it gives me a little bit of an outline of what I'm going to cover and how I'm going to cover it. But let me pull up what I've got here. Unfortunately, my printer is not cooperating, so we're gonna have to just kind of wing it. But my name's April. Um, I'm a photographer. I've been photographing my entire life, everything from a Kodak point and shoot with a drop-in cartridge, all the way to DSLRs now and mirrorless cameras. So I've been doing a lot of photography, and I don't consider myself an expert. I honestly don't. I think photography is something you can do your entire life. You can photograph a little, you can focus on things that you really love, whether it's people or weddings or your kids or taking pictures of your travels, which is often what I do. So today I wanted to talk about thinking about travel photography. And by travel, I think it comes down to what kinds of travel are you doing? Are you traveling specifically to take pictures of a specific phenomenon? Are you going to capture, did you go and capture the eclipse, or are you going to capture the northern lights? What are some reasons that you're going to travel? Is it specific to photography? Are you taking a photography workshop, maybe where you're going on safari for the first time and photographing animals, or you want to go to Alaska in autumn and capture a mix of things like animals, some people, and some landscapes? Because that often dictates what kind of camera you might want to use and what kinds of tips and tricks you might need to improve that photography. So, as I said, I've kind of been photographing a lot for a long time. We all know that we now have a cell phone, which lets us have a camera anywhere we go, 24/7, right here in our hand. So if you're most comfortable using your cell phone, I say continue using your cell phone. Just keep getting better and better at it. And look at upgrading your cell phone. Certain cell phones, the iPhones, they have a more advanced camera with different lenses. You can sometimes put attachments on here. So that often can improve what you're getting with your cell phone. Make sure to practice. Go out and try all the different settings when you go into your camera on your cell phone. There's oftentimes lots of different types of photos. You can do nightscape. You can go into the pro settings. And if you play around with pro settings, you can get into different types of, maybe it's different types of lighting, lenses, the ISO, which has to do with, which actually correlates to, it used to correlate to film speed. So there's a lot of things that you can do right in there with the settings in your camera. So you might want to consider doing that. Portrait. So depending on the type of phone you have, there's often lots of things you can do with that. So that's one thing to think about. If you're getting a camera and you don't have one yet, think about what will you actually use. If you're going on safari, for example, sometimes they have a weight limit on how much you can take. What's your baggage limit? So then you might not want to opt for a heavy pro camera with a super long lens. You might want something that's got a built-in zoom, like a Lumix camera. I was talking to a couple women I know who've had gotten some great photos with their Lumix camera because of the zoom factor. And again, what are you going to do when you get back with the photos? Are you going to hang them on your wall? Are you going to put them into a photo book? There's lots of great ways you can make a photo book later with your photos. And how big are the pictures that you're going to put in the photo book? Because again, depending on the size that you get off your phone, they may not translate very well even to a larger picture on one of your pages. It might tell you like it's too, it's too grainy, not going to be applicable for, making a nice picture in a book. So that's another thing to consider is what your final output is with those pictures. So once you've kind of determined what you might want to use, and you're thinking about possibly purchasing a camera, you might want to think about renting a camera. Sites like Borrow Lenses, lensrentals.com, even better camera stores will let you rent an entire camera setup. So, like if you go to borrowlenses.com, let me pull them up right here, you can actually rent an entire setup. So, they'll have cameras, lenses, and then if I go under cameras, they'll have bundles where you can actually, and it looks like Borrow Lenses and Lens Rentals might actually, I guess they merge. So now we just have the one website. Borrow Lenses and Lens Rentals is now the same thing. So you may want to go in and check and see what kinds of system that you want to rent. And I would take it for a day or two and practice with it. Really try to use it. Put it in your hands. Is it going to be too heavy? Is it going to take up too much space in your bag? Recently, when I went to Egypt, I decided not to take my Canon cameras and opted instead just to travel with my Sony cameras. They're much lighter, they're much smaller, so therefore they're less um, they're less conspicuous. I didn't want to do much street photography if I was going to be carrying around a big camera because it would draw a lot of attention. So that's something to keep in mind where you're going. Are you going alone? Are you going with a group? How much gear you want to take? Now, when I went to Egypt, I took a couple Sony cameras so I could put a different lens on each one. But I also took a fanny pack that I wore in on the front side of me so it would tuck into the bag easy, and I could kind of keep it hidden, tuck it under my longer shirt that I was wearing, just to be less conspicuous. Now, if I'd wanted, I think I did pack a tripod just in case at night I wanted to maybe take something from my balcony, try to get the pyramids at night. So some of these tripods, they do fold down fairly light, but again, you need to have the camera to determine, like if you look at the top of this setup, this one will actually hold a cell phone with this little mount here, but the whole top of the tripod, this would not, there's no way this would support something this heavy, like this Canon with this lens. Just too heavy, it wouldn't hold it steady. So be sure and actually try these things out. That's why you're really lucky with sites like Amazon. Read the return policy, ask around, go to a local camera store if you have something like that, and find out in the store. Spend a lot of time holding it, walking around, taking some pictures, just see what it feels like in hand. Because I actually have picked up some more compact cameras and they're too small in my hand. I have nothing to hang on to, nothing to grip. So that often makes it feel, like it's going to be too flimsy and I'm going to move too much and not get my image. So that's another thing to consider. Think about how much I want to take along with me. Do I want to take multiple memory cards? Buy extra memory cards. Also, buy extra batteries because you don't want to get thousands of miles away from home and not have enough camera batteries. Batteries do go quickly if you're out shooting for 8 to 10 to 12 hours. So that's another thing to keep in mind. And with these newer memory cards, some of them are fairly, this one's a fairly good size. You get the micro cards that are very small. This one will hold 128 gigabytes. These will now go up to, I did see some of these cards now up to a terabyte. So you could use actually one card potentially for your entire trip and never have to take it out of the camera. But if that little memory device goes bad, some people want to switch it out each week. So you might want, a separate memory card for each week that you're going to be gone and switch it out that way. I've actually even had to switch out midweek. So if I'm going to be gone for 5 weeks, I may need 10 cards. And then I want to find a secure place to store them while I'm traveling. Think about taking extra plastic bags, because if you like to travel when it's wet or rainy or fall, or you're going to be on a boat, You want to have a plastic bag and also look at your camera strap. What kind of strap are you using? Often I'll get a camera strap that's not marked. I don't want anything advertised on it. I don't want it to say Canon, don't want it to say Sony. I want it just to be a pretty plain, maybe a strap that blends in. Now, if the strap is made out of something really slippery, it may cause your camera to slip off your shoulder. They have different styles of camera straps, even. And like this camera, this one's pretty heavy. So having it on one shoulder all day, that could get pretty, it could be very hard on my body at the end of the day or in my back. So that's again the weight of the camera. So then I may want to stick to that Sony. Practice. I can't stress enough practicing before you travel. In fact, I haven't had my camera out now for a few weeks. So I'm actually going to want to get some things out and go practice, even around where I live. Get out early, maybe go for a walk, or even just get outside and kind of try different settings with my camera to see what it does and try it out. Other things, check your settings when you're traveling. Go ahead and use all the different settings, but before you go, play with the settings so you kind of have an idea of what they do. Things like white balance can improve your photo. The ISO, the f-stop, do you want everything in focus all the way out? Do you want a shallow depth of focus where you're only getting the flower in focus and everything behind it is blurry and fuzzy and pretty like that? Learn where the histogram is. I think the histogram on the back of the camera is actually one of the best things I ever learned. It's that graph. And the thing you want to learn is, depending on if you have a Canon or a Nikon, which side is which. But ultimately, you don't want the graph to have too much onto the left or too much onto the right, meaning if your camera is reading that it's got a lot of information to the right or left, it's either going to be too dark or too whited out. Yeah, this battery is dead right now, so I can't look at that card. But those are things to learn. Histogram, maybe even watch some videos. Like before I go back traveling or go out with my Sony camera, I'll probably go on YouTube and watch and read some more about different settings with Sony. The thing I like about YouTube videos is you can stop them. You can, read the settings, set your settings, find someone you like to listen to, that it's easy to understand and adjust, and then try. Go out and just experiment, play and learn with what you have. Other tips, look at pictures. I think it's often a good idea to make what I call a shot list. And by a shot list, I mean, I'll often take an file card or notebook, and on the file card, I'll write things like single tree, or I want to get just a steeple, or I want to get covered bridge or a red covered bridge, or whatever it is that I'm have in my mind that I've kind of thought of. And that's why oftentimes it's good to look at examples. You can go on, say, Instagram, and let me pull them up here. And you can just search, or even just in searching for images. Like if I were to search, if I was going to go to Seattle, let's put in Seattle, and you go and search images. And then I could do, let me do a share screen. I guess I won't be able to do that right now while I'm on the live stream. But if I put in Seattle, I'll see pictures of, the skyline. I might see pictures of the Needle. So then I might want to think, now, how can I get some of these iconic shots, and how can I do them differently? Like, what does it look like at night? Where can I go get these shots? Do a little bit of research ahead of time. Maybe choose a hotel that's near a good spot to get some of these iconic images if that's what I want. Look for tours by locals, free walks. A walking guide often has a good idea of where some great photography spots are, and it may be an inexpensive way to have someone go with you to get the photos, or at least be with you and watching your back while you're taking the photographs. They also have specific photo tours. You can Google photography workshop. Meetup often is a great place to find a local person doing go out and photograph the city in the evening. And you can join those meetups or contact the organizer and say, hey, I'm going to be in Budapest in June. Are you having a meetup? Can I meet you and go photographing? So there's some good ways to find others to meet up with that are locals. Facebook groups is another place you might be able to connect with someone that's local to that place. Do a little bit of homework. LinkedIn is a good spot because you probably can find a photographer that lives in that city. And if he's not doing a guided walk, he might have a book or an ebook. Do an Amazon search. There's a lot of series that are called photographers guides to. In fact, like for the United States, I have a whole series of books that's like Photographer's Guide to Yellowstone National Park. And it gives you tips. It tells you when you might want to go out and photograph the waterfall. They've already done the research, so why not take advantage of it? So once you've kind of worked that in to your plans, your travel plans, it can often enhance the kind of photos that you're going to get back. In fact, I'll be traveling quite a bit a little bit later this year, and that's the same thing I actually do is I make notes like where can I get up in the morning? What's nearby? How far is it to walk? Is there a high point in the city where I can get an overview image of the city? Is there a place by the water that might have reflections or canals or boats or a busy market? Are there things that are happening that would make good photos? Including people in your photos. If you're, say, at Mount Rushmore, having some people to give scale. If you can't get close to the monument, as like being in Egypt, a lot of the pyramids, if you can get close to the pyramid and put a person in front of it, or even see other people or a camel, it gives you an idea of scale. How big is that really? Because a photo can be deceiving. If you just have a photo and nothing else is around it, it's hard to imagine how big that building is or how big that rock is or tree or whatever it may be. Maybe it's a large tree. Even floorboards in historic homes, if you don't lay a quarter down or a penny or something to indicate size, there's no way later to tell really how wide that floorboard is or was. So these are just some tips I have for you for going out and improving your travel photography. I'll put some links in the notes. There's a lot of photography guides leading some amazing photo expeditions around the world and even stateside in the United States. So I encourage you to email me. It's april@aprilart.com. And if you've got travel questions or a specific destination, let's get somebody on. I'd love to interview and share what you love about photographing or maybe your upcoming photo workshop. So that's what I've got for you today. Thank you so much. This is April with your photo travel guide. You can hop on and sign up for a free newsletter or when I make a new blog post. So thank you so much.